throughout your career, you've been a champion of women, including being a strong supporter of the Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum. Why do you believe, AABE, and associations with similar missions are important to ensuring women are empowered to rise the ranks of leadership?
Not to too self-serving, because I think women are tremendous leaders. I just, and not that men aren't tremendous leaders, but I think we all bring different kinds of skills with us in the way that we lead. Yeah. And that you need the contributions of women. And I mean, need the contributions of women to really be successful, right? I think companies, if you really want to be a profitable, socially responsible organization, you need the contribution of women, right? Maybe not only women. I think you also need the contributions of men. But the problem is that we have not had the level of women that we need really contributing in the way that they can. We are moving in that direction, but I don't think we're there yet, right? I mean, I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. But, I also think, like, if we're not focused on that as well, it is totally contradictory to the things that we say are important, even as a country, right? Which is that all men have value and everybody has something to contribute, and all of these great ideas. But when you see groups that are left out, I think we have to question, how serious are we about those kinds of values if we're not doing the kind of work to make sure that everyone's there.
We have to make sure, I think, going back to your point earlier about being the only. It's not enough to have one woman in the boardroom. No. Doesn't feel like they can speak up because they may be mansplained. There has to be at least two women in the boardroom that feel they have each other's back to speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. At least two. And quite frankly, I want to see a world where half of the boardroom is female and half of the boardroom is male. Like, I don't think that should be so aspirational. I just, and if we look at the number of women who are leading Fortune 500 companies, there's more than Black folks leading Fortune 500 companies, but it's still not half.
No.
And so there's just a lot more that we have to do.
So I want to talk a little bit about mentorship. Have you had any key mentors over the years? And if so, what are the most important things you've learned from them?
Yeah, I've had a lot of really great mentors. I still have great mentors. I think what I always think about my mentors is, and not all of them are super formal relationships, and that, like, I asked them, would you please be my mentor? They're just people that I'm really close to and I trust.
Yeah.
But that they have always told me the truth.
Yeah.
And particularly when I did not want to hear it, like, those are always the people who will, may say, girl, you're a little bit to the left. No, you're totally wrong. And I've had mentors who have said, your reaction is completely out of order and you were wrong. And I didn't like it. And honestly, when I got the feedback, I was really pretty freaking aggravated by it and was like, what kind of friend are you to tell me that? You're supposed to have my side. Mm-hmm. But I certainly can look back and say, wow, I'm so lucky that person did tell me the truth, right? That I could have that moment to kind of reflect back and see it from a different perspective. So, I have lots of mentors, but I don't have a lot of mentors in like a traditional sense of, hey, I had this mentor relationship with the person that I asked to be my mentor. They typically are people who have been my friends or leaders who I've admired and have, like, subtly attached myself to for advice, who have really given me a tremendous amount of guidance. And some of them have been friends and mentors there's one particular person I can think of, we've been friends for more than 20 years. And, I don't know that I've helped him as much as he has helped me, but he's helped me, just tremendously as I've tried to navigate my own career and my decisions.
Yeah. So you've had an impressive background with 25 years in the energy industry, including 15 years in both electric and natural gas distribution companies, where you've worked in government affairs, regulatory affairs, and economic development. Given your vast knowledge and experience in the sector, do you think the oil and gas industry is transitioning enough to address climate change?
I actually do think it's transitioning a lot to address climate change. I think the oil and gas industry, well, and actually, yes, they are. And I think, the industry very broadly understands the direction that we're going in. And I actually think they want the same things, and folks who work in that industry want the same things that the rest of us want in terms of addressing climate change. I think where there's probably a problem is narrative, right? Narrative building. There's this quote my husband always uses that says, and I don't know where he got it from, but it's something like, until the lion learns to read or speak, the hunter will always be the hero. And so it's this idea of like, who do you allow to tell your story? And then how do you allow them to tell it? And I think as an industry, not just oil and gas, we're terrible at telling our own stories. We really are. We've allowed people to tell our story for us for so long that by the time we got around to telling our own story, it was kind of too late. Like, it's already been built. And so, my colleagues in the companies that support us and that we work with in oil and gas are all really focused on climate change. They invest a lot in renewable energy. They invest a lot in kind of understanding what new technologies may be out there, and how do you make shifts. And so some companies are doing more than others, but I think the sector as a whole, people kind of get it. Like, there's a change happening. Is it going to happen tomorrow? It's not, right? And so if there is a desire for us that oil and gas companies just stop producing oil and gas tomorrow and then everything will be better, I would subscribe to that. That's probably not the right approach either, because we, particularly as Americans, have a quality of life that relies on those products. And I don't know that we even fully recognize how much of those oil and gas products we rely on for just like everyday life. And so until we kind of figure all that stuff out as well, we need oil and gas, but we need them to do it in an environmentally safe way.
Yeah.
Right.
So I want to talk to you a bit about something. So I'm working with professionals at the moment, like incredible women from oil and gas that have been impacted by the job market. The oil and gas job market is not the greatest at the moment, even though some of these companies are investing more than others in renewable energy. They tend to want people from renewable energy to work on those sides of the business. So I'm curious to know if you've worked with any people that have moved from oil and gas into solar or into wind, and how have you seen them transition into that space?
So I don't know that I know anyone who's actually made that transition the way you've described it. Like, I know folks who work in oil and gas companies who are now doing more renewable energy work.
Within that company.
But within that company, not necessarily having transitioned into another company.
Yeah. Well, you're going to know some.
Well, that's good.
Because it's my mission.
I actually think that's fantastic. And I think it would help solar companies a great deal to have folks who have an oil and gas background. I found that the folks who work in oil and gas, and this is a very broad statement, but they are so freaking knowledgeable about this business and like the power business and the renewable, like they know a lot about every single sector, that I think a solar company, a renewable energy who could pick up someone who had an oil and gas background and came out, they would do very well to have someone with that expertise.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about it. These women have extensive construction management experience, EPC experience, working on really complex projects across all different, natural gas, shale, you name it. So I would like to get them into the solar industry, because that's then getting two new women or netting into the industry rather than just moving the pieces around that are already there.
Yeah. And if they don't like solar, tell them to think about energy efficiency, because energy efficiency needs that same skill set.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So thanks so much for your time, Paula. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.